Adrian. You. Good afternoon. What's going on, Adrian? You, I know, can definitely lend to this. If you're interested, join me. I'll send you over a text of the actual StreamYard link so that we can go over here on YouTube and Facebook Live. But I definitely thought about you. I know you saw what I just sent out, and I definitely thought about you. Because you are the epitome of a successful single mother. So, with that being said, I'm going to send you the link right now. I'm technically challenged a little, but bear with me. I'm going to send it over to you right now. And if you care to join me, please do. I got to figure out how to do that real quick. All right, here we go. Let me get this. But anyway, welcome everybody. Straight talk leads to straight understanding. Today's edition is going down. I am Sean Bouldin. Sean B, some people know me as. And let me see if I can I email it to you, Adrian? I'm gonna invite you now. Copy, email it to you because I don't have Messenger over here. But let me see. All right, so we're about to do this, Adrian. All right. I'm trying to get your email right now on my computer. I don't know if I have it. Text it to me on my phone, and I'll send it over to you right now. I'm not on my phone on Instagram, so it really doesn't matter. But anyway, in the meantime, y'all, I just want to say welcome. This is Straight Talk Leads to Straight Understanding. And as you saw, we have a very interesting subject today. The subject is, are single mothers failures? I'm going to play a clip from a gentleman by the name of Mr. Let Go. And he shared a perspective that I'm questioning the answer. I'm questioning or asking that question. All right, I got you, Adrian. E-N-T-E-R. Got it right here. All right, here we go. I'm sending it over to you right now. You can definitely join me. And anyone else, I'm going to put it in the text over here on Facebook. In case you want to join me, I'm going to send that over to you as well. All right. I just sent it over, Adrian, so it should be there. And welcome again. This is Straight Talk, Leads Straight Understanding. My name is Sean Bouldin, Sean B, however you know me. And today's topic is a touchy one. And yes, it is one that a lot of people do not speak of, but we are going to tackle it together. We are going to have this discussion together. Adrian Mariah will join me in reference to this topic, which is near and dear to both of us, because in fairness, she is what I will call the epitome of a successful single mother. So I would love to hear her viewpoint on it, and we are going to get in on it in a few minutes. All right. So with that being said, join us. I'm gonna ask some people to join us over here on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, come over to YouTube, come over to Facebook, because you can actually get to see us a little easier, a little better, and I think you will enjoy it. So for all those who don't know, today's subject is, are single mothers okay, are single mothers failures? We're going to play a clip of where I got the question from, and I'm going to ask you guys to join me. All right, so here we go. All right, so thank you for joining me. Yes, Bear. Yeah, we over here on Instagram, Bear, and on Facebook. I know that the comments, I see some comments here. All right, I see a comment. Let's go. So, no such thing as a single mother unless you are a widow. That is something we definitely going to explore a bit because here we go. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I agree with that. I agree. So, all right, we're gonna let y'all get in here. We're gonna let y'all get in here. Those who are on Instagram, please join me. Those who are here on Facebook, please join us at Facebook as well as YouTube. Subscribe, like. I'm going to again no later than the 10-minute mark. No later than the 10-minute mark for all those. I'm waiting for Adrian to come join me. But this is straight talk, Lisa, straight understanding. So in the meantime, I'm going to play the clip. I want Adrian to come in here, but I'll play it a couple of times. But I'm going to play the clip of what I'm speaking about, of Mr. Let Go, where he was speaking with a young lady. And this is the clip that I'm referring to. All right. All right. So here we go. I'm going to put my phone on mute over here, but here we go.
A woman doesn't need a husband to be successful because I didn't need my husband. I was already successful and up before I had him. You don't need a husband to be successful. Not at all.
What does successful look like, boys?
Happy in your own skin. Happy with the person that you are, in love with the person that you are, that you don't have to look for a man to love you because you already love yourself. And that's what I mean by successful female. Because success can
Is
look
this
at
successful female going to have children with kids?
Yes, you can be successful with kids. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how can you be in this, what you just painted out to be successful without being married? And you have a child in this scenario. Without
the child has nothing to do with that scenario.
Children has everything to do with that scenario. So when you said a woman can be successful and not get married, when you add a child to that, she is no longer successful. She is now a single mother. And being a single mother is not success. Single motherhood is failure. A child, a family comprises of a man and a woman, not a woman.
A woman doesn't need a husband.
All right. So did y'all hear that? Okay. So let this. So Adrian, I'm waiting on you to come, and definitely we will play that again. So you did hear that, correct? This is Mr. Let Go. You can go to his YouTube channel. He's got a lot of compelling information, and he's also a coach on how to grow your Instagram. Your YouTube channels, so you can support him there as well. But the point that he made was a very interesting point. And the reason why I brought up this topic are single mother failures, are single moms failures. All right, I have Adrian in the house, so we are going to let Adrian join. Good afternoon, Adrian.
Hello, how are you? I'm finally available.
And it could have been
I'm like, I know. I'm like, I feel like I'm never available. And then I saw you get on, and it was like, and I saw you post that it was like random. I was like, oh,
it's divine because, quite frankly, this is a subject. And I thought about you, but I never. I know you was busy personally, and I didn't know whether you was finished. And it was a last minute thought. I just saw this morning. And I was like, yo, this is basically a subject that is an interesting topic for a conversation. And the reason I thought about you immediately is because I don't know if you saw the video or heard the video. I'll play it again so that we can look.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we'll kind of discuss some of the points that he was making, as well as some of the points that you feel in reference to the subject. And I asked the question because I'm real curious. I'll share my opinions after I hear, some feedback. But definitely, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play the clip one more time. It's about a minute or so, and then we're going to get right into it. All right, so here we go with the clip, y'all. I gotta mute me so that it doesn't.
For a man to love you because you already love yourself. And that's what I mean by a successful female. Because success
Is
can
this
look in any
successful
other way.
female going to have children with kids?
Yes, you can be successful with kids. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how can you be in this, what you just painted out to be successful without being married, and you have a child in this scenario without
The child has
a
nothing to
husband?
do with that scenario.
Children has everything to do with that scenario. So when you said a woman can be successful and not get married, when you add a child to that, she is no longer successful. She is now a single mother. And being a single mother is not success. Single motherhood is failure. A child, a family comprises of a man and a woman, not a woman.
A woman doesn't need a husband to be successful because I didn't need my husband. I was already successful and up before I had him. You don't need a husband to be successful. Not at all.
What does successful look like, boys?
Happy in your own skin, happy with the person that you are, and love with the person that you are, that you don't have to look for a man to love you because you already love yourself. And that's what I mean by a successful female. Because success can look in any other way.
Is a successful female going to have children with kids?
Yes, you can be successful with kids. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how can you be in this, what you just painted out to be successful without being married, and you have a child in this scenario without
the child has
a
nothing
husband?
to do with that scenario.
Children has everything to do with that scenario. So when you said a woman can be successful and not get married, when you add a child to that, she is no longer successful. She is now a single mother. And being a single mother is not success. Single motherhood is failure.
Okay. So, Adrian. First and foremost, everybody, welcome. This is Adrian Mariah. And welcome. She is a great friend of mine, a single mother who has raised two beautiful daughters who are having a tremendous amount of success, I might add. She has been successful individually. She has gained a lot of different attributes in the entertainment world, and now her education has continued, and she has pursued and has some letters behind her name.
Letters.
Yes, in addition to being a great person. So with that being said, welcome, Adrian.
Hello.
And I'm going to lend the floor to you, and I know you can have a lot to say. Go ahead.
I just feel like this was loaded. This was a lot. First of all, why is he so angry? Let's go there. Like, I'm like, who hurt you? And what mother? You have mommy issues or something. Something happened, because I'm like, you should never be that angry over another person's relationship status. Like, that's strange.
In fairness, I can answer some of that and some of the history that I know about the man.
Okay.
Mommy issues, possibly. I won't go there, but he is actually a woman's coach.
I've seen him.
Yeah, he's a woman's coach, and he kind of pursues helping out women in pursuit of a family structure, and that's kind of where he's coming from. So, with that being said, you could continue.
Okay, so I mean, one of my biggest things is, I would say, first of all, success. That term is subjective, because success looks different for everybody. Everyone has a different meaning for what it is to be successful for them. Some people, it's heavily weighted monetarily. You know what I mean? Like, to be wealthy is successful. To have a certain kind of house or status is success. Some people, it's finding joy and living life to the fullest, or breaking free from generational chains and cycles. And now I feel that I'm stepping into my own. That's what success looks like for me. Some people, it's being just an amazing parent and rearing your children. They're healthy, they're successful in their own right, they're in school, they're all of that. That's being successful. So I feel like, just in general, the term success is relative. I mean, it's subjective. So
And,
to
and
say, what you
I
say?
agree. I said I agree. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So to define a woman's success by her relationship status or her being adjacent to a male partner, provided that, I mean, I'm assuming he's talking about a male because relationships can look like anything. But that our success is defined by companionship is wild.
Well,
Nothing that I've achieved has anything to do, unless I'm in it with that person, has to do with that person. You know what I mean?
mhm.
I think that if we really break down just the basic definition of success, it's really just reaching or accomplishing your own, whatever your own purpose is, or a range of expectations that you've set forth and you've reached them. And that's why I said success is subjective, because that could look like something different for everybody, every person.
Well,
You know,
here's what I want to say on that is that everything, in my opinion, then becomes subjective. So how do we define? So I'm going to go to the dictionary, and right now I'm looking at it, the Oxford's language, and the first definition is the accomplishments of an aim or purpose.
there you go.
There's a thin line between success and failure. And then secondly, which is archaic, is the good or bad outcome of an undertaking. So those are the actual definitions of success as opposed to being subjective. So with that being said, if he was talking about, and this is what I believe he was, the success of a family,
But
does
that it
that
didn't
change?
come across like as it was a family. He's specifically discussing that of a woman.
Well,
So he
well, well,
doesn't mention what it looks like as a single father. That
well,
that
he
exists as well.
he did kind of imply. He did say, if you remember, and I'll go back to it if necessary, but he did say if you bring a family, bring a child into it, that's why he called it a failure. When,
Okay.
because go ahead.
No, so okay, here's the thing though about that is another thing that, again, this is all subjective and there's so many variables, because also single parenthood, I'm not going to just allocate this to women. Single parenthood in general can look like different things for different people. So because you became a single parent, it doesn't mean that you're going out making a decision to be promiscuous and then you just have a baby, or even if you're in the sister wives club for Nick Cannon's baby mamas. Like, it doesn't mean you're doing that. There are extenuating circumstances for some people. So take myself, for example. Most people don't go out and say I'm going to be a single parent by choice, but there are people that do make that decision. Let's say they're later in life, they haven't found a partner, they maybe had difficulties getting pregnant, and they chose to go that way. That is their prerogative. But single parenthood can come about in many different ways. My personal standpoint is, or like my personal perspective and what I've gone through, mine was a result of I was married and being in an abusive, toxic relationship, physically abusive, mentally, the whole 9 yards, and a person who cheated on me and had other outside children. So it's like, are you saying because I chose me, and I actually chose, because I'm rearing daughters, to look out for the best interests of my children, to get out of a situation, I'm now, everything that has come after that marriage, I'm now not a success because I chose to escape a situation that was toxic and potential life threatening? Like, that is wild.
But
So
let me counter some of that. From I'm here to broaden perspectives, and I'm not really
yeah.
going on my opinion just yet, but I'm going to put myself in his mindset as best I can. And
Mhm.
let me and say it this way. Although there are a lot of successes that come out of failures, it's almost hard to, if he's saying that, if he's speaking about a family structure and or a failed relationship, that we can't negate the fact that it was a failure, unless, as Bear said over here, the person was widowed. In your case, I agree, but can you answer me this real quickly before I say this? Do you see your marriage as a failed marriage? That's the question.
For me,
Yeah, I mean, not for
I
you.
see
Do you
it.
see
No,
that
no,
you
no.
got to
Yeah,
go as a failed marriage?
I don't see it
Mhm.
as a failed marriage. I see it as a life experience. I didn't go into it with, I mean, obviously, you go into things with the expectation of hoping that it works out, but everything that was rooted in why basically I got out, and divorced was beyond my control.
And
It's one thing I would say if it would be failed if we didn't, if, or I didn't do everything possible, right, to
well,
make that work. But
can I ask you this? I'm sorry to interrupt. But can I ask you
yeah,
this?
no, you're fine.
Part of that is to the point that I'm making is because regardless of the circumstances, it doesn't negate that it failed. You had a lot of successes and reasons for the failure, and legitimate reasons in your case. It
Right.
wasn't a choice, it was a circumstance, in my opinion, of what went down between you and your husband through his abuse and exploitation, etc. But the point is, ultimately, you attempted, and we'll go back to success, an accomplishment of an aim or purpose. So if you did not succeed at your accomplishment that you were aiming at, can we negate that that was a failure?
I mean, I guess if you're going to be like, if you're going to take it at face value, okay, yes, it was a failure because we did not, the purpose or the aim was to have a successful marriage and to be married long term. So if you're going specifically based off of that, then
Mhm.
yeah, in terms it was a failure. But the
Now
thing
the
is,
reason,
how there's,
go ahead.
sorry, I was about to say, that there's that old saying about failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. So my thing is everything is a stepping stone to get to where you need to be. And again, that's why I said success is subjective. You know
And
what I
to your
mean?
point, it's not, I agree with that. My issue, now I'm getting personal. My
Yeah.
issue, people at times, is not being able to admit that it was a failure. Failure comes with most successes, if not all successes, there was failure.
They do.
But being
Exactly.
able to not embrace that failure starts becoming almost it almost dilutes it's kind of like the Lord being blessing you with something and you not acknowledging the Lord, but you're acknowledging the blessing. And I'm like, hey,
Right.
it comes with success most times, if not every time. But the point that I try and emphasize to people, and this is, like I said, my personal thing at this point, is that with that being said, acknowledging that we failed is not a bad thing. It's
Right.
actually
I don't think it is.
empowering, and it gives you liberty, in my opinion. But so many people, their pride does not want to allow them to even embrace or acknowledge that I failed
Right.
at something.
And I think
And
also
that,
failure doesn't mean you didn't try. Failure doesn't
absolutely.
mean
As a
it
matter of
doesn't
fact,
mean
you
that in a
can't
lot of people's
fail. You can't fail. To
unless
your
you
point,
try.
you can't fail if you try. So the point,
Exactly.
right? And maybe because I don't want to make a gender, but I have happened to speak with a lot of women, and that is who I get a lot of the answer that you just gave me from. Is nope, I don't see it as a failure because I'm like, wait, and I have to bring up the point that I just brought up, but I just get to the point why, like, why is it so difficult to just embrace the fact that, hey, I did fail. And a lot of men, that's what we're trying to uh, uh, get across to our black women, especially, um,
Mhm.
that when we're speaking, we're not speaking from a place of breaking you down or destroying you,
Accusatory. Mhm.
accusatory. We're speaking factual and asking not to get emotional so that we can get to the facts, to get resolutions and empowerment, quite frankly. And we get a lot of resistance, and that then defeats the purpose of being able to empower each other.
Mhm.
And that's kind of
Agreed.
where my passion comes from when I have these conversations, and why I bring up these subjects and speak on these titles, because what I heard is different from what you heard, because I didn't hear him saying, oh, you're a failure. I heard him saying, if we're speaking about a family, he said,
I didn't hear him say this speaking about specifically about a family, because he called her a failure, and then he said, do you have children?
Well, let's listen to it again.
Yeah.
That is hold on a second.
I don't know. It's just it's also semantics.
I got it. Well, to be honest with you, I hear what you're saying, and that's your perspective. My perspective is it becomes triggering and emotional to certain people, especially single mothers. Because to your point, and I will say this very clearly, a single man in this description is a single father is also a failure to a relationship, to a family,
to a relationship, right?
Right. And
I would say, well, here's the thing. I think this is where we're dealing. I think where I don't like it is I don't apply, and at least to my situation or anybody in a similar situation. I wouldn't allocate the word failure to, I wouldn't like assign it to the person per se, but the relationship itself was a failure. So if you have one side, and I think that's why, and I'm just speaking about on your point of where maybe it can be taken personal for certain women, and that breakdown that you were talking about.
I'm glad you said that, because we're going to listen to it again after finish your point. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's more so like, from my perspective specifically, if you're in a relationship and you're like, I've done what I could do, and this is extenuating circumstances beyond my control. I'm being abused. My kids are being exposed to this. This is unsafe. This is toxic. I myself am not going to assign the word failure to me, right? But yes, I agree. The marriage overall, yes, is a failure.
Right. And so the point that I was making just now, we're going to listen to it again, is that often, and I'm leaning it towards you, our Black women and our Black sisters, queens, mothers, etc. Right now, I'm speaking specifically to you, because I find it very commonplace that it's taken personally when it's something that, and why I said we're going to listen again is because I didn't hear anything personal. He actually said single mothers, which he didn't say her specifically, but he did. But let's listen to it real quick and then go from there. Hold on one second.
A child, a family comprises of a man and a woman, not a woman.
A woman doesn't need a husband to be successful, because I didn't need my husband. I was already successful and up before I had him. You don't need a husband to be successful. Not at all.
What does successful look like, boys?
Happy in your own skin, happy with the person that you are, in love with the person that you are, that you don't have to look for a man to love you, because you already love yourself. And that's what I mean by a successful female, because success can look in any other way.
Is a successful female going to have children with kids?
Yes, you can be successful with kids. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how can you be in this, what you just painted out to be successful, without being married, and you have a child in this scenario? Without
the child has nothing to do with that scenario.
Children has everything to do with that scenario. So when you said a woman can be successful and not get married, when you add a child to that, she is no longer successful. She is now a single mother. And being a single mother is not success. Single motherhood is failure. A child, a family comprises of a man and a woman, not a woman.
A woman doesn't need a husband to be successful.
Okay. So let me remove that. So now we listen to it again, and I listened with a different type of ear just now. And again, what I was saying is that he asked her, because what I got the implication is that yes, you can be a successful woman, but in bringing a child in the situation, you want to be able to have, to his point, a marriage that is included in that union, child, mother, father, because a family, as he said at the end, is comprised of a man and a woman and the child. And I kind of got from that standpoint is that whoever chooses, unless it's under excruciating circumstances like yours, to negate either parent out of the equation, it then becomes a fail scenario to the child, because the child needs the balance that the man and the woman bring collectively. And if you purposely are negating that for no other reasons other than being happy, as she said, I feel that I'm successful because I'm happy. And I'm like, happy is not success. Success is not happy. Success,
I
again,
mean, that could be her definition of happy.
once
Again, you
again,
don't
that's,
know.
you're right, but
It's
that's personal.
subjective.
But
No,
no,
it's
the,
subjective. It's not personal. It's subjective. If
I am.
somebody, I'll just give an example. If somebody has gone through years and years of addiction, and they've been depression or something,
Mhm.
and they have navigated their way out of that, maybe their definition of success is that I'm happy and I'm clean. It does not.
Okay.
It's subjective.
I,
No matter
I
how you put it,
understand that.
it's subjective.
You're right, but let's just use the idea that it is subjective. She specifically said, "I don't need a husband to be happy, and the accomplishment of an aim or purpose is what happy is. The accomplishment. I don't need a husband to be happy." He didn't
Okay.
dispute that. He
Right.
said, okay. He said, is there a child involved in this? And when when he brings in or the child is added to the circumstance, that's where I personally, then it becomes subjective to how can your happiness be the major point or determination of success when you are now including not just the child, but you're also including, whether you want to or not, the child's father.
Agreed. But here it goes back to, I think that I would have taken him more seriously if the subject was single parenting. Single parents are a failure. He's going hard saying you being a single mother and not having a husband is a failure. But that's wild.
And
like,
can I ask you this? Why is I see your point, and I see this point all the time.
That's misogynistic and crazy.
But I see this point all the time, and women make it every single time that I have accountability. Every single time that comes to accountability, or I'm challenging them on their accountability. We're not speaking about the father right now. We're speaking of specifically, he's speaking to a woman. He's not speaking to a man. He's speaking to a woman. And he's asking her about her accountability in reference to being a single mother and the totality of being a single mother.
Right.
Now,
so with that being said, though, he started off with family, but then he started off just discussing. I mean, then he went into discussing just success before he brought in the question about, is there a child involved? So it literally seems like he's attaching someone's accomplishments based off of
How do you get him by bringing it in when she said it? She was the person.
No. He brought in. Do you have a child? He brought that in after.
No. What he did, he said, explain success. He said, what is your idea of success? She said, success is being happy. X, is there a child involved?
Right.
She said, of course, it can be, you can be successful that way, and a child can be. And then he said, when you put in a child, it becomes, she said, the child don't matter. And he said,
say the child don't matter, but yeah.
Listen again, she
absolutely. But yeah, no, I get what you mean.
She said, and this is why I'm
regardless, she can be successful.
This is why I'm glad we're having these conversations, because we'll listen to it again, but we hear, usually male and female, we hear what is prone or what is what we agree with or what we listen for, so to speak. Because
I mean, that's the whole men are from Mars, women are for Venus. You speak different languages.
And funny thing is, I used that example the other night, and I'm gonna share this with you, and you tell me what your thoughts are. my issue with men are from Mars and women are from Venus is that they are two different languages, right? But here it is speaking with a woman, and she speaks perfect Martian for Mars language, and she speaks perfect Venus. She knows that I don't speak Venus well. So I used it as real languages. I said, it's like I was speaking with a young lady. She was in Germany. I was like, what the issue is that you speak German fluently. I might know some words, and you speak English fluently. You speak them both. So I'm telling you something in English. And when it's something you don't want to hear, you're asking me to tell you it in German. And I'm like, wait, hold on. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You understand what I'm talking about. You don't want to hear what I'm talking about. So instead of just saying I don't want to hear it, you say, well, tell it to me in a language and in a way that I can receive it. And the reason why I use that example is because it was another scenario early on that it was talking about my delivery. And they said, Sean, you need to deliver it a little bit more gentle. You need to be, maybe tone it down. I said, look, and we used the analogy of medicine. I said, I fed this medicine directly. I don't like it. I put in sugar, fed it. I don't like it. I shoved it down their throat. I don't want it. The point wasn't about how the medicine was administered. The point was they didn't want medicine. And instead of sitting here acknowledging that, they made all of the reasons and excuses. I don't understand it. I don't want you. You're hurting me. You're doing it too forceful. You need to tone it down. Every reason to put the blame elsewhere. Instead of just saying, I just don't want the medicine. And I just don't understand that when it comes to my sisters and my female counterparts. So if you could help me, please explain that.
No, there's a thing that I had read that was about men tend to communicate in a manner that's considered like report talk, meaning it's just based on facts. This happened, when it happened, blah, 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 no emotion. And women tend to gravitate towards more of rapport talk, communication from an emotional place more so. Of course, you have those people that can do both. I tend to be sometimes report talk, that, to the point where my kids will be like, I need you to have a little bit more emotion. That's my Aquarius nature. But I think that's where a lot of that breakdown in communication is. And I think the compromise is you kind of have to read the room. You kind of have to know who you're dealing with, and maybe you have to compromise a little bit. I mean, even when we're going back to relationships and failures, communication is one of the biggest things. We know that males and females inherently communicate differently. So maybe you know who you're dealing with, and maybe you do have to finesse a little bit and, put some more sugar on it.
And
but you also know when to exit if your point is if they're just resistant.
But what's funny about that? My issue with that is that it boils down to trust. But the bottom line is that when you are sitting there trying to do everything, do you know how difficult, and I just learned this maybe last week, how difficult it is for me not to react the way that I think or feel? It's more difficult for me to restrain from just reacting normally. Like, for example, that's why when we was talking about the slap before, I said Will Smith. His natural thing was to just go and slap somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes a lot more for us. It takes a lot more for us not to do what we learned to do, because that's what we were taught. And we have had to unlearn it because of the consequences, etc. But then again, when Jada rolls her eyes, how she learned how to deal with things that frustrate her, She didn't have to restrain. She could roll them and it's all good. And I'm like, nah, they are both signs of not being able to restrain your emotions, and how difficult, and just as how difficult it is for her to not roll her eyes when she feels offended, it's the same, if not more difficult for us not to just jump up and punch somebody in the mouth because they talking junk. And so, with that
Yeah.
being said, I don't say one is worse than the other, although arguably it can be. But the
Yeah,
point
it's
is,
just most people don't. I mean, a lot of people have to learn. It's emotional intelligence. You
I
know,
agree.
that's something I've had to. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
we all had to.
we
I
all
still
have.
struggle with it at times. I still want to throw things and punch something, even though I
Hmm.
can't. I know I can't do it to a person, but it
Hmm.
doesn't take away the impulse of wanting to do it, because that's what we learned to do.
Exactly
You
right.
know, and
Yeah.
we're maturing emotionally. And when a woman does it, she gets praised for it. When a man does it, it's often overlooked, which puts even more pressure, hurt, anger within us, to where when we snap, it looks like a whole turmoil, because we've been restraining from and not even getting, oh, good work. I see you working on it. Or, man, I know that took a lot from you to be able to, you
I
know what I'm
get you
saying?
though.
Whereas I feel like you guys definitely get more of it, more emotional support, because we're not supposed to have emotions, but we do have emotions the same way you
Right.
guys do have logic and rationale. And we
I
always
agree with that.
realize it, like one doesn't have it and the other one does have it, but we
Right.
both embody, and that's where that balance comes from, because y'all have a tendency to balance leaning more towards the emotional side, which is necessary at moments, and we have a tendency to lean more towards our physical side, which sometimes is necessary. And to be
Yeah.
able to give that balance to where we're doing it good and we're teaching our children how to do it better is the reason why I feel that family structure is so important, and why I fight so hard and so passionately when I see it being destroyed by us
Yeah.
collectively.
Here's the thing though, when you're specifically talking about male emotion, I know we kind of like went off on a tangent a little bit, but even in a family structure, I have seen um toxic masculinity being passed on. And for boys, it's especially in the black community, our black community, it's man up, don't be emotional, shake that off.
You know,
So it's
that term,
unfortunate. Yeah.
itself, toxic masculinity. Why is it that we have coined this term in Black community and it has now
It's not
trended
just in the
into?
black community.
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying, because it's very clear about what I'm saying. We have
Mhm.
coined it in the Black community and made it a trend, and it has bled over, like all of our trends, into other communities, to where other people are adopting it and using it. But it's now becoming very popular, and toxic masculinity is what those people who are empowered, who are basically running, those people who have the opinions, who we work for and things of that nature, is what they built these companies on. And so it's kind of like becomes an oxymoron, because you're saying, don't do what I admire. And
Well,
it's so,
yeah.
help
That
me
that that
understand.
that's not really. I mean, at least not from my perspective. Like
Well, let
toxic
me ask you,
yeah.
a
Uh-huh.
question.
Yeah.
Uh, have you worked for anyone?
In my lifetime, of course. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm asking that because I know right now you're doing
Yeah.
other things. But
Yeah.
the people who run those jobs, those companies, are they not white men
Right.
predominantly? And the company that we said work for was built on toxic masculinity by a white
No,
man.
So here's the thing. It's actually not that term came in later, but it's actually called hegemonic masculinity.
Okay.
That is where it's basically male dominance in positions of power or society. That's actually the coined phrase. So
Okay.
when we're dealing with toxic masculinity, that's specifically, and not saying that sometimes those two things don't overlap, it's dealing with that word toxic, that violence or insertion of control to
Ooh,
get
wait, wait,
power
wait,
and superiority.
Ooh, wait,
Superiority,
wait, wait, wait.
that's
Listen to what
different.
I asked you and tell me where that did not exist in those companies that came up.
I just said it can overlap. I mean,
No,
you
it
have a
does.
Donald
No,
Trump.
let's not
Yeah.
can. Let's not can. It does overlap. Let's be very
Right,
clear.
but can I
Every
ask you a question?
company.
So
Go
does
ahead.
that make it not does that make it right? I mean,
Well,
the thing is
what it makes it, what it
we
makes
fight
it is,
those structures
well, here's what it is. What it makes it
because it is
is,
toxic.
what it makes it is that's what you respect in one
But
instance.
who?
The
But who
people who are
does?
the people who are working for, the people who are sitting there ignoring the fact that that was the root of the structure of that you admire and or you try to use as an example. And then when somebody else is exercising it in a manner that is uncomfortable to you, you question it. When you're black men specifically are exercising the same exact thing of something that you admire indirectly, because when you anybody who's I'm talking to anybody who look for a job in a Fortune 500 company, 97% it was developed on exactly what you're saying. The male, you called it male dominance, the male dominance that you're kind of saying you don't want your men to have. So you're emasculating with the concept and the thought of putting in the word toxic so that you never will be able to have the liberty and the position to free not only yourself but your families and your brothers as well.
Okay, but can I say, okay, I don't fully agree with that. I'm not going to fully subscribe to that because you're saying there are people that like you respect it. I think that it is that hegemonic masculinity and especially white
Mhm.
men in power. It just exists, and you almost kind of don't have a choice because that's how
Yeah.
society is.
See,
But what I'm
this.
going to say is I don't subscribe to that everyone is just respects it and this, that, and the other. I think hegemonic masculinity and toxic masculinity for me are two different things. They can overlap, but I don't agree that, like, I'll speak as a Black female entrepreneur, that that's necessarily the case because we're seeing an uptick in Black women as the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs. And a lot of that is because of toxic environments where that male dominance, it's rooted in microaggressions, it's misogyny, it's all of that we don't want to deal with anymore. So specifically you have Black females starting businesses of their own
Okay.
and doing their own thing
Let me
because
ask
they
you
don't
something.
respect that.
And guess what they do? Because guess what? Where they getting their resources? Where they getting their products that they're starting these companies with? Let's really dig deep into it. They're not getting it from each other. They're getting it from the exact entity that you're sitting there telling me you don't agree with. They're getting their
I mean,
resources. They're getting their power. They're getting everything. You got to realize we already been through this cycle as Black men. Before you guys could even get acknowledged, we were going through struggling to get acknowledged as a person, then struggling to get jobs and so on and so forth. So what you speak of is not something foreign to us. It's we have already been through that empowerment, entrepreneurship, everything that you guys are doing. We've been and have done. What we're showing you and what we're trying to tell you is that it's intoxicating. It becomes selfish. It becomes dominating. And if in fact you don't understand and receive that, you're pursuing something that can destroy you. That destroyed us and our families. We recognize it now, and we're trying to share it to our sisters who are entrepreneurs. We're not saying don't, but we ain't no true entrepreneurs. We ain't creating the resources. We're still relying on somebody to give us the resources and sitting there speaking or puffed up and powerful like we're doing something, and we're not.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Don't you think that society, in general, I mean, white hegemonic power structure has been implemented that way to make us codependent? It's in history, we've created our own. We've had Black Wall Street. My family's from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
And when we've had those things, they've also destroyed it. It is set up to try to make us codependent. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but all of it is set up to be cyclical so that we always go back to them.
But absolutely. But the root of it is divide and conquer. And what's not being acknowledged is that they're dividing you from your men, Black women from your Black men, and they're conquering us collectively. We know this because we've already been divided and conquered, but pre-segregation, before desegregation, we actually went through it. We wanted everything you're talking about. We want to be part of it. We want to be down, this, that, and another, and it destroyed us. And now we're trying to share with you guys. Look, I know it seems sweet. I know it's intoxicating. I know it's lovely. I know it makes you feel good. All of these things that we already went through, we're sharing like, we get it. But what's happening is dividing us, and you're not acknowledging or understanding that. And yet you're the smartest beings that you can be, but don't see the trickery right there. We don't get it because we're like,
it's the Willie Lynch syndrome. Yeah. It's that neurosis that was actually implemented into our society to divide us, and so that we don't collectively work together. But going back to what you were saying, specifically toxic masculinity, I feel like when that term is used, this is just my perspective. When that term is used, for me, I use that term as it relates to like brute force, like kind of disgusting behavior. Like, and again, it can overlap with hegemonic masculinity, but I think of it as violence, aggression, bullying, like the whole
now
thing.
Watch this.
Wait, hold on. I was going to say though, I feel like just like if we go all the way back to what this original discussion was about, single moms, and you said, oh, well, when women come in, they always go, but what about men? What about this? I feel like Black men internalize when we use that word toxic masculinity, they internalize it and you get defensive. So for me, I'm using it as in, it could be anybody. Toxic masculinity is taking like without consent, without like being toxic.
Now watch
and I don't think that is synonymous with masculinity. I feel
now
like you can be a man and not be any of that negativity.
Watch this. You saying this disgustingness. Okay. If somebody came up, a murderer came up to come get you with the gun, and we went and killed that murderer with our gun, you ain't calling it toxic masculinity, yet it is the same exact reflection of what it is you're telling us not to be.
Well, no, because we're talking about in terms of behaviors that are used, toxic behaviors that are used to create dominance over someone.
Once again, we are dominating when we're killing the person that's trying to dominate you and our family. We're dominating that person by killing them. What part is different?
I guess the reasoning behind it's also like, no, I'm just saying it's the same thing. It's like most people excuse like the killing of somebody who's done something to children, but I'll be against the death penalty, but they'll like, I'll make an exception for that person because they're discussing they did something to kids, right? Like there's always those cases. I'm not saying at face value you're wrong, it's still that, but toxicity when you're discussing toxic, I think it has everything to do with connotation. Like if you're going in to make a wrong right, that's different. But if you're going in like a lot of
can I pause
it's
you
to
right
steal,
there?
kill, rape, take.
You said if we're trying to make a wrong right, we're trying to make a wrong right within you guys. We're trying to say when you're thinking wrong, This is what we're trying. Wait, we're
But you
trying
don't
to
have
make.
to do it by brute force. My ex-husband used to say
but the
that.
whole-
That's
but the
toxic.
whole-
Okay, I'll give
but the
that
whole
example.
thing is-
My
the whole
ex-husband was
thing is,
toxic
guess what?
masculinity. I'm
Guess
teaching
what?
you with a lesson.
But the problem is that it's done. It has been done by force already. While you're even submissive to people who you work for.
Right, but that's in that context. There are toxic in the context of a relationship, right? Let's go back to that. There's no place for that in a relationship. Masculinity, femininity is fine, but why would you add toxic masculinity if you're looking for a relationship that is not a failure? You're not overtaking anything. You're not trying to. There shouldn't be violence. That's what we're talking about when it's toxic.
You know what's interesting? I had this discussion the other day.
I'm not talking about going out and conquering the world that is against you. I mean, a lot of the world is anti-black and against black men. You have to sometimes go out and play that game. It's chess, not checkers. But as it pertains to your relationship, there's no place for toxic femininity or toxic masculinity.
Let me address that. One, in a relationship, divide and conquer is what we just finished saying is part of a lot of people's strategies to break up relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you said earlier, we get defensive when we say that word. It's not that we get defensive. That's an offensive word. When in fact,
but
wait, let me finish.
It's the same thing that was applicable to women.
Wait. It's an offensive word when in fact we're not being toxic. And let me give you the example of what I'm referring to. And I'm gonna use tiger cubs. I use the lion cubs. When a mother lion takes her cub and put it in her mouth to move the cub out of the way of danger, that cub might get injured or might hurt that cub when that mother is in her teeth. I mean, when the cub's in the mother's teeth. The mother didn't mean to hurt the cub. The mother just meant to secure the cub, to keep the cub out of danger. But it did hurt the cub. Now, with that analogy, what happens often is that when we are doing something disciplinarian or doing something that will give leadership and guidance, saying, look, don't do this, and it comes across where it hurts your feelings or hurts something about your emotions, because that's usually what it boils down to. You got your feelings hurt. We ain't talking about physical. Because you say it's also when you got your feelings hurt. Or something, even if I pushed you out of the way, what happens in my analogy is I pushed you out of the way, and instead of saying thank you, me pushing you out of the way of danger, you say, oh, you pushed me too hard. Oh, why did you throw me to the floor like that? Oh my gosh, you're not hurt, you're not dead, you're just sitting there getting overly emotional about something that will help not only you, but help sustain us to continue on, that you don't recognize as valuable, and you don't recognize as that because your feelings were hurt or because it was a little bit abrasive in the manner that didn't try and kill you, just tried to move you out of the way, and you got hurt, but we saved your life. Instead of enjoying the fact that we saved your life, you're complaining with the fact of how much force was used when we did.
But that's not toxic masculinity. That's not. So you have toxic masculinity. You can have toxic femininity. That's not toxic. That's all about intent. Toxic is what it is. It is something that is. Whether it's violent or it's literally meant to destroy. So if you're just talking about masculinity, my thing is, I feel like people are making those two things synonymous. And why are they synonymous? You can have masculinity and not be toxic.
You know, it's
I
interesting.
don't understand that. Why are we making that? That should only be offensive if you're engaging in those disgusting behaviors, those toxic behaviors, and you want to justify it because everything you said is not toxic.
But toxic is subjective. And because we're using it and we're not.
Really.
How you figure? How do you figure?
Violence is not subjective.
Once again, if in fact, wait. Let's go one at a time. Violence. I just gave you an example of where it is subjective. When you kill somebody to protect your family,
but we're talking about as it pertains to a relationship. I mean, we can talk about societal.
I'm talking about my relationship. My family is my relationship. I'm protecting. I kill somebody to protect my family, is what I said. Very clearly, protect my family. That is now looked at as
intent.
You shouldn't. Okay, I'm not disputing that the intent. That's why I said subjective, because my intent might not be clear to you, and you think that it's toxic when in fact you didn't even see what was going down the road that I saw that you didn't have the vision to see. And you calling it toxic instead of understanding and trusting, okay, I have all your best interests. That's why I said boils down to trust. Because if you trusted your man or vice versa, your man trusted you, he wouldn't think anything was toxic, even though it might have seemed that way because of the way he abruptly reacted to something that you didn't understand.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think that's making toxic masculinity equivalent, interchangeable with just masculinity. I don't think that those are two of the same thing. Like literally behavior patterns that are toxic, violent, or misogyny, or certain things that are destructive. You going and defending your family is not, the intent is not destructive in nature. A woman could do the same thing. Like she could go to bats for her kid. And like I would go to bats for my daughters any day. Like that's the intent is not destructive. My point is, if you are doing life with someone or having a relationship with someone, there's feminine energy, there's masculine energy. Neither of them need to be toxic. Like,
but
for
the whole
you to
thing
be
is
successful.
Toxic. The whole concept of toxic. The reason why, for example, I don't use narcissism. I try not to use narcissism because everybody is jumping on the word just like they're jumping on toxic to me. Now, let me tell you why.
But it exists.
But you ain't a doctor, neither am I. I don't use it because I ain't a doctor, so I can't sit there and diagnose.
But I'm saying, wait. But there are people that are. My ex-husband was diagnosed bipolar and narcissistic.
And guess what? The person, so you can, because he got diagnosed, say that. But you ain't determining it because of what you think. You're determining it because of what was diagnosed. And a lot of people going on what they think and making a diagnosis, and it's a medical diagnosis that is unfair to those who are not those things, but just have characteristics, which we all do, of narcissism. But everybody so loosely use the word and say, yeah, he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist, this, that, and another, to make their point instead of really getting the actual definition of what it means. So I don't use the word.
I don't know. I think you can. There's a point where, again, there's everyone has tendencies, of like certain narcissism, like things that we do. But like, come on now, you recognize signs like of certain abusive natures or certain things. Like if you didn't, we wouldn't be able to navigate the world. If you didn't recognize signs and act accordingly, then you would be in a whole lot of mess and be surrounded by a bunch of crazy people. Like you have to.
I understand it. Discernment. I understand discernment.
Yeah.
Being discerned, but the whole thing is, part of the problem is that when we loosely use things as and generalize things that need specificity, and we have a tendency to generalize when we need to be specific about it, and that generalization then becomes a normal, or to some people, a fact, and that fact destroys the overall embodiment or structure of what could be successful. And nobody's taking a bigger picture look at those things and continue to generalize and continue to be part of the problem instead of part of the solution.
And I agree with that.
And that's a lot of the reason why I'm saying certain things I'm saying. What is toxic? I agree. If we can determine that and identify that specifically to the, absolutely, if it applies, it applies. I'm
if
not
it
saying,
applies, it applies. Exactly. But you
right.
can't lead in with it's offensive because it does apply to some people.
Well,
You know what I mean?
here's
Like,
the reason I listen to it's offensive, because when I'm accused of being toxic, when all I'm doing is trying to safeguard, when all I'm doing is trying to safeguard somebody who isn't even really recognizing some of the things that I will recognize. It's very, oh, excuse me, uh, uh, a lot of people in my life, people
yeah.
who offended by me telling them the truth.
I can understand that. I've gotten that too. But that's
And
people weaponizing words. I don't think that it negates the validity of certain meanings that like this really exists, right? Like
but the whole thing
toxic
is,
masculinity exists or toxic femininity. Like these things exist. There are
right,
people that are that, but people do weaponize words and they'll use it and maybe it's not applicable. I get that.
and
But that
that's,
doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
well, I didn't say, I said the reason why it's now more of a trend than it is a reality. Narcissism is more of a trend than it is a reality.
I
A
get that.
trend is more of a trend than it is a reality.
What was
And
the last thing you said? Because you broke
trigger,
up.
I said trigger
Oh,
is more of a trend than it is reality. They all are realities and they all do exist. But unfortunately, because of the internet, because of, the internet, I will put the most time on because it's so rampantly available that
right.
it's now becoming a trend instead of actually purposeful.
I
And
understand that, but we have to be very careful though with things that are trends for people that are actually encountering those things. We then can't like dismiss them because things are a trend. So, like, for example, I dealt with someone that was toxic and abusive and narcissistic. You know what I mean? It's like we can't just dismiss it because other people are weaponizing it or using it. It's like, for example, I'll give you a term that is becoming a trend too, and they've taken it over, is woke. Right? Like it's like, oh my God, and now they're using it and they're using it in a way, you know what I mean, to like be mad at a daggum Little Mermaid, Black Little Mermaid. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, the woke, that's what people do. You know what I mean?
Hold on one second, Bear. I posted
Oh,
on
Lord.
Facebook. I posted on Facebook the link to be able to come on, and anybody else who wants to join us, the link is posted in the comment section under my name. And I can allow you to get in. We got a few more minutes. It's 6:40. We're only going to be here. We actually have been here 10 minutes more than I expected. So I'm not going to be here much longer because I don't want to make it a 2-hour show. But I am going to go on a comment that was said by Mr. Lecter, by the way. I don't think she meant that the child doesn't matter. The guy got under her skin and she just got a little emotional. I'm glad that comment is there because my whole perspective of why I even have these conversations is because of that. Getting under their skin and then taking it out of context to be able to support how they feel. And I've been real heavy on facts over feelings over the last month and a half, 2 months, because a lot of times we get in our feelings, which dilutes the facts. Like, for example, early on when we were speaking and I said, hey, let's listen to it again, because immediately it triggered a feeling in you when what he was speaking about. Now, you might have had legitimate reasons and feelings from what he said. I understood that, but it immediately triggers a feeling and we react to it so naturally. I'm guilty of it often. And I try and check myself because I'm like, all right, what are the facts and what are my feelings? Because I get so caught up in my feelings that I sometimes miss the facts. I sometimes miss the information because I'm caught up on my feelings. And if I'm guilty of it, I just confront people who are guilty of it as well. And I'm saying, yo, let's get better. Because that's our resolution is, as we said, taking accountability for where we fail, take accountability of when we're wrong, taking accountability of when we are not correct and need to be corrected.
Mhm.
Because correction can come easily when you accept that you were wrong and need correction. Otherwise, guess what? It starts getting into the laws are built on toxic masculinity, if you want to call it that, brutality, if you want to call it that. That's what the laws in this country are designed and developed on. Respect is something that is not really taken into consideration amongst our family unit. But when it comes outside, we're respecting the police. Police said, get down. We sitting their hands up, or we're fighting and getting killed. But the point being is that in order for us to really counter those type of situations, we have to amongst ourselves counter the first issue of the lack of respect that we have for one another.
I agree with that. Yeah. I would definitely believe that there's a breakdown in the Black family and the Black community, that we subscribe to this kind of overall, like, this massive mentality in the sense of, because they control and puppeteer everything. Like, I don't like that. And I think sometimes there's displaced aggressions and emotions amongst ourselves that really honestly should be allocated to those that are actually doing the puppeteering. You know what I mean? It's
that to
wild.
me, that right there is the reason why I try not to use toxic masculinity or narcissism, because those are just words that are basically dividing us further. We're being divided by titles that other people are controlling, i.e., the woman king. They was like, oh, it's trending. They against each other. It's trending. Let's make a movie and call it The Woman King. It'll just add to more division, and it has. And let's put toxic masculinity all over the internet. We don't own it. I was listening to Candace Owens the other day.
Oh God.
Yeah. And I say it because I have the same sentiments. But she made the point of that song that about the abortion and I don't know, EBTD.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And she was right. But what I told her is she showed the portion of the video. She showed like the first verse of the video when she was making her point. And I said, my issue, Candace, is the fact that you are not addressing the platform of where you're able to show it. Because if something offensive was to any other community, i.e., the gay or religious,
right,
any other community, it will be flagged and you will be taken down immediately. You wouldn't even show it, but yet you're sitting here showing a verse of a song and you're not acknowledging that a
who is perpetuating the message.
Perpetuating the message.
Exactly.
And so that in itself was why and where I feel we have a tendency to fall short, because we'll go ahead and perpetuate and allow things and do things that just perpetuate, and we think we're fighting against it.
And we're basically fighting ourselves. Yeah, in a circle.
People come upon to the whole game of chess that we always talk about. We know how to play. I don't know how to play chess.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. It's hard to get out of it. Like we talked about the Willie Lynch syndrome, and the root of the problem is the social construct of white supremacy and systemic institutionalized racism is so woven into the fabric, not even of just this country. The world has subscribed to anti-Blackness. No matter where you go, it's not just it's anti-Blackness.
I don't want us to get taken down, because when start,
I know they start flagging. But it goes back to what we were saying, though. Look at the platforms. We don't have the platforms to be able to have these discussions. We don't have the because it's all controlled. It's woven into the fabric of absolutely everything, and it's chess. It was done so long ago. It's hard to undo it. You
that's
know,
the whole.
it's damn near
It
impossible to
is,
undo
but
it.
part of the things that or the reasons why we're having this conversation is because a lot of it we're dividing ourselves because we're not respecting each other's perspective without having a conversation without being triggered, or even if we are triggered, without controlling our emotions when we're triggered. And we
I agree with that, but also still that, Sean, is you're still dealing with root. So when we go back to like that Willie Lynch thing, even some of the dynamic between Black men and Black women, or just the whole thing about the, you know, the family, the Black family unit, again, you're going back to the root. It's something that it's still they created. You know what I
ladies
mean?
and gentlemen, we are here again with the awesome three.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Well,
Yes,
yo,
sir.
let you close out, and I don't want you to get into it with anyone, especially.
Oh no,
Yeah.
No,
we're not getting
no,
into
By
it.
all means, go ahead
no.
and shit.
I mean, right now, I think what we're talking about, he can agree with that. You know, we were
Well,
talking about the
okay.
Willie Lynch stuff and some of the stuff, but yeah.
See, I'm gonna put it like, yo, Sean, I watched that kid, Mr. Let Go. That boy got problems. He need to talk to his mommy. He need to talk to his daddy. He need to find out what happened between them. He really does. So we gonna let that go.
All right.
The issue of single motherhood, we have a society from I'm spazzing on what was the movie back in the day when she had the 8 babies in the house and James Earl Jones, Bouldin.
I
Yeah,
know what you're talking about.
what was that movie?
It's not Geraldine. It's an old exploitation 70s movie, 60s
Yeah,
movie.
but
And
James Earl Jones was in it. Claudine.
Claudine. It is.
Claudine.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
if we look at the 70s, I'm 54. So if you know, my fault is a product of that. If we look at the 70s and what we came out of and what we came into as Black men, and through heroin and drugs and breaking down the Black men, you have what you have now because the mothers had children by these Black men, and their I can't say communication, their understanding of their parents, we leave a lot of that on the table as far as Black men. Most don't even understand their father. So when Black women go through what, and sis, I'm not taking shots at you, but I do want to ask, like, when your ex got diagnosed, did you leave him before or after he got diagnosed?
So his diagnosis was very separate from the abuse. He got diagnosed before, and he was doing the due diligence to get help, because just because you're diagnosed with something doesn't mean that you're going to become abusive or you're going to do certain things. Being bipolar, there's many people that live with being bipolar that aren't abusive. There are people that have mental illness that doesn't mean that they're violent. So I left.
But he became violent.
Yes, and when that happened, I left. Yes.
Okay, so there was no, and like I said, I'm not taking shots, because only you know what you did in that to keep that together. Because what I'm trying to understand is like, it wasn't repeated. It wasn't something he always did. It might have been an episode or something of that nature.
It was a few episodes. I've known him since I was 11 years. I've known him since I was 11 years old, meaning we were friends. I knew other girls he had dated and all of that stuff, and he had never been violent. No quote unquote signs of like, this person, torches animals or do any of that stuff that people say are signs of. So no. And so when it happened, I mean, I married relatively young. It happened once. And yeah, I got beat up. After that, I was shocked because again, we had my oldest daughter, but she was a few months old. I was like, what the hell? This is a person I've known, and there's been nothing. This is out of nowhere.
Okay.
And
So
And then we found out he was bipolar.
Yeah, also, she was about 14.
Okay.
14.
When you had how old were you when you had your first child?
16.
16. I'm sorry. She was about 16.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not when the abuse happened. The abuse happened.
But that explains a lot, because there are a whole bunch of precursors that a 16-year-old is not going to understand.
Yeah, he wasn't 16 though. So he was 19, but the abuse didn't start then. It started years after that.
Okay, so were there triggers in his life? Like, is he abusive now? Is he running around beating up motherfuckers now? Like,
yep. He has since me.
Wait. Stop. We ain't gonna get into him.
No. I'm just gonna because I'm curious to know where he's going. But since me, he's had multiple children and he's abused every single one. But there's public criminal record.
Well, I have to speak for criminal records, so we're gonna leave that out. Because the other thing, we have to do with
going forward. Yes, in their 40s now, the cycle has continued and gotten worse.
So that was your experience. You got out of it. You pulled out of it. That single motherhood, of course, Mr. Let Go. He's a nut. That has really kind of nothing to do with what Sean is really talking about.
Yeah.
Because your episode is different than these young girls running around here choosing, because you didn't get raped. You chose dude.
Which I mentioned about that. If you made choices.
Yes, and that was another point, because you chose dude, but then I have to add, at what point did you choose dude? At what age? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then how was he developed? And how was your relationship with your father, and what's his relationship with his father? And that's what brings me back circling around to Claudine. Claudine,
yeah.
Because the black man had to be removed from the house. But James Earl Jones wasn't them 7 kids' daddies.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Which is wild, because that also wasn't my situation. Like, he had his father. I have my stepdad and my dad, and like great parents.
But what I'm where I'm coming at is that view has to be taken into account. Yes. And a lot of that view hasn't been taken into account. I'm 54 years old. I am 6'4", so I'm the above 6 foot brother. I make 6 figures, so I'm the above 6. I have my own, but this, I'm with Sean. I'm trying to figure out what y'all really want, and then at this age, you ain't figured it out. Stop side talking me. Yeah. You can't be 45 and side talking me, and you haven't figured out your daddy issues, or you trying to figure out your mommy issues or something.
And you don't need to be figuring those out in a relationship with somebody.
That part.
And at a certain age, that part. So Sean, I can't remember what you said. There's a term that you use, and I've been trying to remember it all week. I was going to text you. Tone monsters or tone, because how we speak, New York, New Jersey, like we change our tone. Like, that's not yelling. This is yelling, and they don't understand it.
Yeah, I get that too. When I ain't from New York, people be like, "Calm down." I am calm.
I'm completely calm.
Trust me, you would know when I'm not calm.
But you were using that term, tone.
I don't remember the tone.
I think it was off the cuff. I think it was at freestyling, but
more than likely.
People don't hear that tone. Like, I agree with you, Sean, in that tone, in that sense, because Sean is a nice guy. Mm-hmm. I'm not really a nice guy. I'm kind, but I'm not nice. And that's what Sean is nice and nice. There's a difference, but we definitely agree that in our tone and how we're trying. If I'm the man, and I am, I grew up around men, and they led, and women followed, and the relationships that I've seen, I do. It's not that I don't see now. I mean, I can't get one, but there are out there. But that core, there's a certain core mind frame that is definitely being destroyed and hidden away from. And it is that couple growing and moving forward together and addressing your own traumas. You know what I mean? Because I know I got my triggers, but keep your finger off of it.
That part.
That
so
part.
People like to weaponize. Yeah, they know.
And that's where that toxic masculinity madness comes into play.
Or femininity.
Because, and then you have toxic femininity, which is, remember when New York, when they were like, yo, stop manspreading, stop sitting on the train with your legs open. Excuse me, but where am I supposed to go?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, when you say toxic femininity, you just gave an example of that, in my opinion, when you said, when you just finished saying, what? Wait, what did you just say?
You know, I'm freestyling too.
You said when she knows what she's doing.
When she puts the finger on the trigger, she knows my trigger and puts a finger on it.
That's the feminine
and then toxic. Part of that, what they don't think is that I'm vulnerable enough to tell you what my triggers are.
Right. But that's
you
being
want
an
to run
adult.
around like you want to run around like Annie Oakley.
And you're testing it to see if it's really a trigger. You're testing it to see if you really love me, you wouldn't do that. I'm telling you, that's like saying if you really love me, there wouldn't be a bullet in the chamber when I pull a trigger.
Yes.
What do you mean? Don't pull
what do you
the
mean?
trigger.
What do you mean? Sean knows I've lived like 4 lives. So when I'm like I am right now, working in a hospital and down south and working with doctors, and that's one life. But when I came home from the penitentiary after 9 years and running around selling drugs and busting dick to the feet, that's another life. So a lot of women don't understand that there are men who have lived their life, and I can see the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I really can. And part of what and old girl called it a God complex last week. And it's like, I'm trying to tell you that if you open that door, Jason's behind the motherfucker. Now, I'm a bad motherfucker, but I can't be Jason, baby. Don't open that door. And then you're like, oh, babe, what are you talking about? Jason's but, and then you snatch open the door and I snatch you by the back of your head and I kick the door closed. And then you looking at me like I'm a madman. Sean, this lends to your point. Now, you mad, I snatched you by the head. But I'm telling you, baby, Jason is behind that door. I don't want to be in this relationship no more. I don't want to deal with you no more. You snatch the door open and you go out and Jason got the joint up and he about to come down on you and you turn around and look at me and I close the door. And I'm wrong.
Well, I think in that circumstance, you're both wrong because you both have the ability to control your emotions. So yes, that person probably pulled triggers, but you could just be like, you ain't the person for me and I'm out. Like, you don't have to answer it with the same response as someone else.
Did you just not hear what I said? I'm sorry.
I'm saying you still are responsible for yourself, regardless of the reason.
Jason's outside and Jason just killed you.
Are you talking about, you're talking about someone else. This entity is Jason and you're protecting her? Or are you talking about like,
and I keep telling her, don't go outside. And then I snatch her by the head. and I kick the door closed, and
No,
then you want to
I
start
thought
arguing.
you meant it. No, I thought he meant it metaphorically. You know, like somebody pulling your trigger. Like you're saying, if I get to this point, like I'm a, you know,
No,
that's
no,
what
no,
I
no.
thought. I get what you mean.
No.
You were protecting her, going back to what Sean was
Right.
saying, and
Yes.
as an ending result, you grabbed her, and then she turned on you. I got
Yes.
you.
And now
I
you
got
want to
you.
run
That makes more
outside
sense. Yes.
and get hit by Jason, and
Right.
then I'm wrong because
And
when you turn to
right.
look at me like save me, I close the door.
Okay, yeah, I get
That's
what
why
you
I'm
mean.
single. That's why I'm single.
But that's just like again, you
No,
gotta
sis.
you gotta find your person because
Nah,
no, you
I'm
do.
like, no,
You gotta
that's why I'm
still find
single
your
because
person.
when I
Well,
keep telling you that,
what it
and
is.
then this is what further exacerbates the situation. I'm sorry for taking this over, Shaw, but this is what further exacerbates the situation. I'm 54. I'll be 55 next month. I'm dating that 45 and up.
Yeah,
You ain't figured it out yet.
I feel you.
Well, here's what it is, Bill.
What is it? Text
Those
me.
who-
What is it?
I'm about to tell you. Those who are over 40 and or around 50, the reason why they're still single usually, and I'm one of them, is
Well,
because
no. I gotta put my hat on too. That shit look good on you, sis. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put mine on too.
what I was saying is that often the ones who will be cooperative and understand that perspective are in relationships happily.
Exactly. I keep meeting. They've been out of relate. They just got
It's
a
not you keep
25-year marriage. I'm not
outside
that
of
mystical
us,
dude you've been
outside
dreaming about for
of us,
25 years.
right? And outside of a few of us, it's hard to find somebody who mentality just isn't that way, and that's usually why they're single. So you have a majority of single people who, for lack of better words, are toxic. And then you have the minority of them who are single because of circumstance and looking for other single people, and they're running into the majority. Because that minority, like it's hard out there. It's hard
It
out
is
there
hard.
trying to find somebody who do not have some type of issue going on. And
I
more
mean, to be fair, everyone has issues. It's a matter of are you accountable or are you working through those
But
issues
Adrian,
prior to being in the relationship?
but this is what I'm saying. At a certain age, of course, you're supposed to. I know my triggers. I'm
Right.
being vulnerable to you to say, you know what? Just talking in circles, that doesn't do it for me.
Right.
The way you communicate with your girlfriends, that
That
doesn't
work.
do it for me. You know what I mean? And it's not a trigger where all of a sudden I blow up. But if you want to change my mood, just
Right.
start talking just to be talking. If you really want to change my mood, because I'm probably high and you blowing my high. And then what I'm going to respond is not what you want to hear, because again, I am not kind. I'm not nice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
You just have
agree.
to. It's really like you have to find your person. We all have love languages. I'm, like some people, like I'm not super affectionate. I like space. I have to find somebody. I mean, I've been in a relationship for 7 years, but it's finding someone who respects that I'm the type that I can completely be like, okay, go do what you need to do, and not up on them, not
but
super
then
affectionate. That's but I'm a giver. That's my love language. You know what I mean? Like just finding someone who matches that energy or is willing to compromise and meet you where you
hey,
are.
sure, we're gonna do a movie. Actually, it's just gonna be life based, and it's just gonna be called The Golden Boys. We're gonna pick a house in Atlanta, a house in LA, and a house in Miami. We always got spots in New York we can always go to. And we just all pay our social security. I got social security. I got, some money I figure we just ride it out like that. You know, I'll be Blanche.
Look, anything can happen. I just heard a story of someone
man.
getting married at 93 years old.
Wow.
Someone that I know and found the love of their lives. So, you know, I don't know how long it'll last, but
the
you
love
know,
of their life. Wow, that's a
they
whole
said
life
that.
to be
Yeah.
loving. Ooh.
And this is not a story I read. This is someone that I know just said, oh, I think it was their mother or somebody who's gone off and found the love of their life and went. No, I'm sorry. I was at a museum. And the person was like, oh, yeah, the lady, she normally comes and speaks, but she just recently got married and she's 93. He's 93. And then she found the love of her life and they went off to go get married this last weekend.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. So
There are so many reasons that will work. They kids is probably dead. Their grandkids don't speak to them, so they ain't got to worry about nobody in their relationship. They ain't got no friends because
they said it came back full circle 72 years later. They
you
knew
know
each
what,
other
Adrian,
and then
that
came
sounds
back.
beautiful, but
So
like I said,
guys.
he ain't getting chased by the police home. He 93 years old. He ain't dealing with some boss getting underpaid and working. He 90 and when he go home to her, that's how he going home to her. Don't romanticize that shit.
I'm just saying it's still possible for you.
So I'm gonna get ready to get out of
Sorry.
here. You know, for about an hour, 40 minutes. As always, I love it when y'all both join me individually and collectively, especially. And thank you again. So the point that we
like this conversation, we were like this.
Right. We wasn't trying to really, and that's usually what happens. And we wasn't really trying to identify right or wrong in whether a single mom is a failure. I personally wanted to bring up the point that we brought up within the conversation, which was acknowledging that although you have had a lot of successes, that a failure doesn't make you any less successful, and being able to say that really makes it a lot easier to grow and a lot easier to connect with your significant other or your future significant other, because men in our Martian talk from being from Mars, we just like hearing the realness. If you are we don't like hearing the excuses or the powdery puffed definition or example of what you feel or what you think it is, just to secure your image. You know, we don't like makeup. Y'all like makeup. You know, not every.
Yeah, we don't wear for y'all, just so you know. Half the time we wear for ourselves,
and we don't like it.
So you don't have to worry about it.
just FYI, we don't. It's not. We don't cover up stuff. We don't like the cover ups. We don't like any of those things, and that's what it feels like when we say it was failed, for example, and everything other than the fact, everything is being spoken and deflected with by saying, no, it's not failed because of the successes that you have. And it's even with villainized because you start taking it personally, like we're taking a shot at you.
Sean, can I throw something in there?
Yes.
You failed when you did the math on the brother that you let sleep with you, and you failed when you didn't do the paperwork. When you didn't look at the history and go, oh, you know what? He got 2 other baby mamas. He don't deal with them either. He don't work regular. He just hustle. When you didn't do that paperwork, and if you did do that paperwork and got an F and you still let him in, you failed because you set yourself up to be a single mother. So in that sense, yeah, and a lot of sisters ain't doing the math. I'm not talking about a situation that you got married, it didn't work, you've been with somebody and didn't work. I'm talking about if you did not do the paperwork, you ain't do that background.
Or you thought you were going to be different.
Because
that's
that part. Sorry, or that
like
part.
I do have to
I had to throw it. I'm sorry. So yeah, a failure. You're a single mom is a failure if you didn't do the math, and now you sitting there with the baby rocking back and forth, talking about this nigga need to go get some milk. How he gonna get milk? He ain't never got milk before.
Right.
And in addition, to what you guys are saying is that failure is the
Sean, you have to wear a
launching.
hat next week.
I know, right? Failure is the launching pad of success. And
Yeah,
we
it
need
is.
everyone to remember that and not take it so personally by the word. Here's two words: failure and another word: wrong. It's okay
Right.
to be wrong.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally when somebody says you wrong. And to your
Grow
question
from it.
earlier, Adrian, when somebody called me toxic, it was because I was saying things like that. You're wrong. Who
Oh,
makes
got
you
you. And
God? What makes you
they
God?
felt
You ain't my
right.
father. And I'm like, yo, it's not
Do
about
you
being.
know your father? I'm sorry.
It ain't about being God. And these are people, some of them who I couldn't have been their father because we're relatives. You know what I mean? So, so the
Yeah,
point.
you know what? That part where black men are still dealing with family members and trying to tell them right, even their daughters and sons, and all of a sudden we're crazy.
Yeah,
Listen, I'm actually, it's not just y'all, because I just dealt with it with family
Mhm.
too. And it was
Yeah,
like, but you're wrong.
Jason's outside. Jason's outside.
It was like, yes, you're wrong though.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm not wrong. Jason's outside.
And you know what? For that, I have to leave people where they are. Like you then have the decision to, I can either engage and I look like a fool because we both did the same working, or I can just leave you there and respect you and love you from afar. And
You know
that's
what's
where
funny?
I'm at.
You know what's funny? Bear, I said it when I was speaking with Sharma last week. The last couple of weeks, I've been smacked in the face, kicked in the head with let go and let God.
Let
That's
go.
that's
Let
basically
God.
it. Let go, let God. Let go, let
Listen.
God. And the funny thing is, it goes with every relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's business, whether it's friendships,
Family, yeah.
family, you know, and I
Yeah.
have to love them enough, as the analogy said, and what reminds me of it, had to love them enough to struggle in their cocoon
Mhm.
to be able to spread their wings so that they can fly.
Yeah, because they need to go through that struggle to develop.
There we go. All right, y'all.
It's
Well,
so
with that
true.
being said, it's been lovely to see both of you again.
Always,
Oh
always.
man, and I look forward to doing it again in the future. This is Straight Talk, Lisa Straight Understanding. Everybody who's looking, please subscribe. Everybody who's enjoyed it, share. Everybody, I got Instagram over here. Y'all wasn't able to see my two wonderful guests, but y'all was able to hear them. Look at the show. Very valuable information was discussed. Very great perspective. And I realized my point for Straight Talk Leads to Straight Understanding is to just broaden the perspectives of any and everybody, including myself. You
Mhm.
know, really my goal is to, if we can come out with a slight bit difference than what we thought, we have broadened our perspective. Whether we
Great.
agree with it or not, if we
Mhm.
see we have broadened our perspective. And that really is the goal of Straight Talk. And I'm glad that I have such straight talking people such as Adrian and Bill join me.
Yeah, always.
It's important for the community. We need more
Absolutely.
conversations
Absolutely.
like that.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to say a farewell to you all. I'm going to leave us with a quick prayer. I'm not going to be long-winded. Heavenly Father, we come to you today to give you the praise and honor that you so rightfully deserve. We thank you for your presence. We ask you for your guidance. We ask you for your forgiveness. We thank you for these things, for what we ask for, and we ask you to extend it to all those who we know and love, and all those who know and love us, as well as those who don't. Forgive us for things we have done against your will and your way, knowingly or unknowingly, and help us to learn how to get better in life. We say things humbly in your Son, Jesus Christ's blessed name, or however those who I'm praying for or with may know you. Amen and amen.
Amen.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.